They're desperate. It's the end of the run in California. They're out of money, out of luck, out of opportunities. They've hit the buffer, so to speak.
Harry lied on his paperwork to be able to gain admission to the United States.
Harry's only coming back because he's got nothing to do in California. He's coming back because he's trying desperately to somehow rebuild a life here.
The life that they were leading and the life that Harry, according to my very well-placed sources, was desperate to escape.
Harry and Meghan have achieved 6 full tax years of non-UK residency in the last few days.
Desperate to get royal approval again so they can somehow be revalidated.
Tom Bower just said something that will make Harry's blood run cold. Lady C revealed a secret she held for 8 full days before she dared speak. What they both uncovered about why Harry and Meghan fled overnight is so explosive the mainstream media buried it completely.
That's a plus where Meghan is concerned. But I have been fed information starting on the 12th of August, which I have kept stum about because I felt it was irresponsible of me to do anything in terms of revealing what was going on.
Watch every second. Lady Colin Campbell does not go public with information until she is completely certain of what she holds. That discipline is exactly what makes what she just revealed so significant. Lady C told her audience that she had been sitting on specific information since August the 12th. Deliberately, she described going public before being fully certain as irresponsible. So she waited, she watched, and when Harry and Meghan stunned the world with their announcement on August the 20th, Lady C decided she could no longer justify her silence. What she revealed stopped people cold.
It's very entertaining and amusing, and I know that you have been having information that you have been sitting on, as have I been sitting on. And to just address my part of it, insofar as the intellectual discourse that Harry has been developing with somebody in California.
On August the 11th, just 9 days before Harry and Meghan told the world they were abandoning California and returning to Britain, federal investigators held a formal meeting. That meeting was focused directly on the documentation Harry submitted when he first sought to enter and remain in the United States, his visa application, the declarations he signed under oath to the American government. 9 days later, Harry and Meghan announced they were leaving.
Harry and Meghan, it's all cock and bull. They're not moving back to the United Kingdom because they want to. They're moving back to the United Kingdom because Harry is endangered as a result of the feds. On the 11th of August, there was a meeting with the feds where they were inquiring into and looking into the paperwork that he submitted.
Lady C described her sources as trackable, reputable, and official. She was not presenting personal speculation. She was presenting what those sources had directly told her. And what they made clear was this: Harry and Meghan understood what was being examined. They understood it quickly. And they recognized that remaining in America, while that examination intensified, was not something they could continue to do.
You know, I think what we've learned about the return of Meghan and Harry back to the United Kingdom is really the signs were all there, but not necessarily from them. You see, when you look at the bigger picture, you can see exactly how so-called friends, associates, patriots...
Tom Bower reached the same conclusion without needing Lady C sources. Bower has spent years studying how this couple responds when pressure closes and simultaneously from multiple directions, and the 8-day timeline spoke for itself. Normal families do not announce international relocations 8 days after a federal meeting. You do not organize schooling in another country, secure housing, prepare 2 young children for an entirely different life, and brief journalists warmly about your heartfelt family intentions in 8 days. Not unless something has completely and urgently forced that decision.
I think that they are manipulative to the highest degree. But you see, with the Cotswolds, for them, it was a natural destination. It's Soho House is where her friend Marcus Anderson has a base. They've been there before. Harry knows it very well. He doesn't need to do much scouting around there. He's got a couple of friends there, to say the least. They'll tell him which schools work. It's an easy place to slip into.
Bauer also identified the contradiction already embedded in existing reporting. Harry and Meghan had quietly been exploring Cotswold schools as far back as April, months before this announcement. If this return was a genuinely considered family decision planned well in advance, why was William told on a Sunday as though informing him was an administrative formality? Why did every credible source use the word blindsided to describe both Charles and William?
He was as blindsided as William was by finding out on Sunday. But then we also read this morning that apparently when they were over early in the year, they sounded out schools in the Cotswolds area. That's in every single newspaper this morning. And Meghan fell in love with the area. The thing that I think, Tom, and I'd love your take on this, is with them, there always seems to be some sort of duplicity and ulterior motive. There always seems to be something. And I take what you say. I think the Hollywood dream died.
Bauer's answer was direct. April was a contingency quietly held in reserve. August was a trigger that nobody planned for. Lady C then revealed something that received almost no coverage elsewhere. She disclosed that she had been personally approached and invited to raise specific questions from the United Kingdom side. Questions designed to give federal investigators additional grounds for pursuing Harry directly. She declined, calling it irresponsible to participate before she was fully certain.
I've been receiving lots of information about this, starting on the 12th of August. And the last information I received was actually this morning about all that's been going on. Harry and Meghan have understood that if they didn't jump, he was going to be pushed. And they could not afford the embarrassment.
But the fact that those approaches were being made tells you precisely where the investigation was heading before Harry decided to move. Lady C put plainly, Harry and Meghan understood that if they did not choose to jump voluntarily, they were going to be pushed. And the public humiliation of being pushed out of America was something neither of them could survive. 8 days from federal meeting to international departure announcement. That is not a homecoming.
I think they are hoping that the whole thing will go away. But as long as he was living in the United States, it wasn't going to be going away. In fact, it was intensifying. I think this is a typical Meghanian stunt on her part, because Meghan has a long track record of creating situations, and at the 99th hour, she manages to avoid the consequences by doing something unexpected.
That is a fire exit. Tom Bauer made an observation about Harry that sits directly at the center of what Lady C revealed. Bauer has noted consistently that Harry is not always the most reliable narrator of his own experiences. He pointed to Harry's conduct during his press litigation. He identified specific moments where he believed Harry was not delivering complete accuracy under oath. But Lady C identified the devastating irony that Bauer's observation actually sharpens rather than softens.
Well, I think in the immediate future, they're not short of money. I mean, they've got enough money from Harry's book and the Netflix deal and the rest to keep going. The point is that they, in the longer term, will run out of money. And I'm sure that's what is terrifying Meghan, who is a very, very money-conscious person, having had a youth which was not flush with cash.
In this specific case, it is not Harry's dishonesty that created his legal exposure. It is his honesty. When Harry published Spare in January 2023, he made explicit personal admissions about his drug use. Cocaine, marijuana, magic mushrooms, written in specific and vivid personal detail, published in dozens of languages to millions of readers across the world. Nobody seriously challenged those admissions as fabricated. They had the authentic texture of genuine personal memory. United States visa applications asked directly and specifically about illegal drug use. The question is not vague. The answer is a sworn declaration to the federal government, a legally binding statement signed under oath.
There is a strong belief by the feds that Harry lied on his paperwork to be able to gain admission to the United States as, I suppose you could say, semi-permanent resident.
Lady C pointed to Heritage Foundation's sustained legal pursuit of Harry's original visa application. Their argument was straightforward and potentially devastating. What Harry admitted openly in Spare and what he may have declared on that visa form cannot both be true simultaneously. If the memoir is accurate and the visa declaration is not, there's a precise legal term for what the second document contains: federal fraud.
Assure the feds of having further backup as to the possibility and the feasibility of, in fact, arresting Harry and depriving him.
Lady C stated the mandatory consequence without hesitation: 5 years federal prison mandatory minimum. No adjustment for royal title. No reduction for family connection to a reigning monarch. No exception. The law does not ask who your grandmother was.
And this is unexpected. And it's certainly unexpected where the feds are concerned, because they were dealing with the fact that Harry was living in the United States of America. So I think she and he are hoping that by ostensibly moving back to the United Kingdom, that is going to preserve him from arrest.
Tom Bauer framed what that means in the context of Harry's entire post-royal brand. Harry built his public identity on radical personal honesty, on telling his truth regardless of personal cost, on speaking when powerful people demanded silence. That specific identity, those precise words appear to have created the legal exposure that may have ended his American chapter entirely.
I think at the moment she will be back with him superficially and ostensibly for practical reasons. First of all, she is going to want to make sure that Harry's interest in the relative merits philosophically of Wittgenstein versus Kant.
Lady C added the one detail almost no other coverage addressed. She believes leaving voluntarily before formal action was taken preserves some theoretical possibility of a future return to America. A formal deportation closes that door permanently. Walking out before it reaches that point may keep some version of it fractionally open. Whether Harry ever returns to America as a resident is now genuinely uncertain.
I think that's something that she needs to be vigilant about. And as long as it suits her to be his wife, she needs to be vigilant about that because, at this stage, she can interfere with philosophical discourses.
Tom Bauer has examined the Sussex financial picture with more sustained and careful attention than almost anyone else covering this story. What he found does not match the image Harry and Meghan have consistently presented to the world. Bauer walked through each failed income stream with methodical precision. The Spotify deal is gone. Tens of millions of dollars. And not one completed project delivered before the arrangement collapsed entirely. The Netflix relationship that was sold publicly as a creative revolution produced one documentary and one cooking program before subsequent commissions quietly ended. The streaming platform that once wrote extraordinary checks for the Sussex name stopped doing.
Because we'll talk about security in a minute. How do you believe, Tom Bauer, that they'll make a living? Because everybody knows the Netflix deal's gone, Spotify's gone, there's 50,000 jam jars unsold with that pathetic example of a business. How are they going to survive? Do you think the King is going to fund them? Because I think that, if that turned out to be the case, I think the British public would never forgive him.
Well, I think in the immediate future, they're not short of money. I mean, they've got enough money from Harry's book and the Netflix deal and the rest.
Then came as ever. Meghan's lifestyle brand launched to a wave of media attention and immediately ran into serious difficulty. Bauer noted the single detail that tells you everything. Over 200,000 units of unsold product sitting in a warehouse. A brand backed by the full promotional weight of Meghan's platform could not persuade consumers to purchase what it was selling. He's coming back.
He's coming back because he's trying desperately to somehow rebuild a life here. It isn't going to work. not only has he got nowhere to live, but these charities, the Well Child, it's all that's piffling, it's nothing.
And through all of this, the legal bills kept arriving. Lady C added the human dimension Bauer was carefully circling. She has said repeatedly and said again in direct connection to this return that Meghan is deeply and personally conscious of money, not as an abstract concern. Meghan grew up without financial security and understands with complete personal clarity what vulnerability feels like. The idea that Meghan agreed to leave California without urgent financial pressure driving that decision does not survive serious examination. Bauer then mapped the complete picture failed ventures. Daily Mail litigation costs running into millions of pounds awarded against Harry.
The point is that they, in the longer term, will run out of money, and I'm sure that's what is terrifying Meghan, who is a very, very money-conscious person, having had a youth which was not flush with cash. I think we'd be appalled if the king suddenly produced any money for them. But I think that's the reason why they're here, to test the waters.
3 properties being maintained simultaneously with no stable income stream to sustain them. Montecito, Portugal, now the Cotswolds, and then what Lady C calls the Bank of Charles. Charles is ill. Charles wants a relationship with his son. And Charles has resources Harry cannot effectively reach from California, but may be able to access from the English countryside.
This is Meghan admitting defeat. Of course, she doesn't want to be doing it. She hated it here. I mean, she might say, oh, she liked listening to magic radio, but I mean, that really was the extent of it. There are obviously massive financial issues going on too, Lady C. Like, we know they are in deep, deep financial doo-doo, but there is also something about the timing and why this might appear rushed.
Lady C has been explicit about this. The movement toward Charles is not primarily emotional. It is a positioning of someone who has exhausted every other available financial option and has nowhere else left to turn. Bauer noted one confirmed detail that ties the financial picture together precisely. 6 complete UK tax years of non-residente means their American earnings now fall entirely outside HMRC's reach. Lady C asked it on air, without any diplomatic cushioning whatsoever. If Harry and Meghan are crossing an ocean to give their children closer access to family, what exactly has Thomas Markle done to deserve 7 years of complete silence from his own daughter? Lady C has raised this question before, and she raised it again in direct connection to this return.
The whole thing is rushed because Harry and Meghan had no idea what the feds were up to when the feds started to investigate all of the papers that he submitted starting on the 11th of August. And today is now the 20th of August. So we're speaking about 8 or 9 days. So obviously the whole thing is rushed because the axe is in danger of dropping.
The official narrative being carefully fed through friendly press contacts is one of family reunion of children building bonds with grandparents of Harry wanting proximity, to his ill father of a couple rediscovering their love for Britain and the family they left behind. Lady C asked who exactly is being described. Thomas Markle is Meghan's father. He is elderly. He has experienced serious health problems. He has appeared on television and given interviews not because he seeks attention, but because a camera was the only remaining channel through which he could try to reach his own child.
Good to see Harry and Meghan achieve 6 full tax years of non-UK residency to manage the temporary non-resident rules for capital gains tax. They have clearly had some good tax advice, and the timing of the move back to the UK is immaculate. Now, that is because HMRC, that's like the tax man here in the UK, has a rule designed to stop wealthy Brits scooting abroad, cashing in their assets and strolling back home. It's called the temporary non-residence rule, and it means that if you leave the UK and come back within 5 years, you never really left for tax purposes as far as capital gains are confirmed.
His grandchildren have never properly met him, not once, not in 7 years. Lady C laid out the comparison directly. Meghan can arrange private travel to visit King Charles when proximity to Charles serves a clear and identifiable purpose. She can brief journalists warmly about her heartfelt desire to give Archie and Leet access to their grandfather and their British heritage. She can speak the language of family love in every press statement her communications team carefully releases.
The other huge problem that you now have, and this is the interesting bit for me, is that Meghan Markle basically claims that she doesn't watch social media, all of that sort of stuff. The staff members that have now been told, and there's only a few inside the Montecito mansion, they've been told that they will be looked after, and they're going to sort of trim things down. You can read that any way you want, chums. Trim things down might mean, of course, that, you know, the jam-making business has finally come to a grinding halt.
But Thomas Markle, the grandfather without a title and without resources that benefit the Sussex operation in any identifiable way, has been completely excluded for 7 years without a credible public explanation. Tom Bower did not distance himself from this when it was raised. He noted that the public credibility of everything Harry and Meghan claim about their values rests on a foundation this single fact quietly and completely undermines. You cannot build a public identity around a language of family and radical honesty, while a sick elderly man sits watching his grandchildren grow up through photographs he finds in newspapers.
The big issue that I want to talk to you about, however they make their money, is plastered all over most of the newspapers and certainly on the front page of the Daily Mail, Tom. Sussexes security could cost taxpayers £5 million a year. Now, this argument has been going on forever. In fact, I played a clip yesterday, just barely a few months ago, when he said, having lost the latest trial, or the latest argument with the Home Office, I don't believe the United Kingdom is safe to bring back my kids to. The issue I now have is what the hell has changed, and are they going to get security? Because the British taxpayer, if that's the case, are going to be footing the bill again.
Tom Bower returned repeatedly in his most recent analysis to a figure who is no longer here, but whose presence runs through every element of this story, Queen Elizabeth. Bower has examined the Queen's private response to the Sussex situation with the careful and sustained research that distinguishes his analysis. His conclusion has remained consistent.
He's been always planning to come back on his terms. Yeah. He's now coming back on our terms, so to speak. He won't get state security, which costs a minimum of £10,000 a day. There's no way that Rabeck is going to change its judgment now. Now, it might change if a threat is actually discovered against him and his children, and that has always been Rabeck's point of view. There is no threat.
The Queen saw Harry and Meghan clearly. She saw them earlier than Charles did, and she issued one instruction she considered final. No half and half out. You carry the title with every obligation attached to it, or you carry neither. There is no arrangement where the commercial value of a royal name is retained while every responsibility that name carries is declined. The Queen stated this explicitly and considered the matter permanently closed. Harry and Meghan treated it as an opening position in a negotiation.
Well, I think two things. I think at the moment it's causing huge problems. I think that Harry will try his hardest to remove the problems so that he can be reaccepted into the royal fold. That's what this is about. So he will do his best to neutralize the anger and somehow persuade them that he can be trusted again. And I don't believe he can do that because Meghan is the worst person in the world to ever compromise or apologize. So I think that they are a pain, they're a nuisance, they're a danger to the royal family.
Lady C was precise about what that decision then required the Queen to absorb. The Oprah interview given while Philip lay in hospital, the Netflix documentary, the memoir with its accusations directed at living family members. And through every development, a woman of 95 maintained complete public silence because she understood that responding would damage the institution more than the attacks themselves.
It's interesting that all of this dovetails with the feds coming after Harry for having possibly falsified his application forms, because I don't think that they would have moved quite so quickly and quite so decisively had they not discovered that the feds...
Lady C referenced the interview moment this audience knows Harry was asked directly how he had responded when he learned that both his father and his sister-in-law had received cancer diagnosis. His answer came without visible difficulty. He had his own family in California. That was where his attention was directed. Not one word for Charles, not one word for Catherine. Lady C said clearly what she believed the Queen would have made of that answer. Bower agreed immediately and without any qualification. Bauer then connected this to what he described as Charles's consistent and damaging failure to enforce what the Queen had made explicit, keeping them on the official royal website, never formally removing titles regardless of what followed.
They want to be closer to King Charles and ensure their children build relationships with family. All of this, of course, Lady C, piling pressure on Prince William, because she then goes on to write, the frost between Prince William and Harry endures as the heir to the throne refuses to talk to his younger brother, we're told. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex made their plans to leave California earlier this month, weeks after their July reunion with Charles. It's not just the king whom the Sussexes desire to be closer to.
Lady C was direct about the consequence. Tom Bauer stated it plainly, and Lady C confirmed it without any hesitation. Harry is not afraid of Charles. Harry is terrified of William. Bauer has studied the dynamic between the two brothers with the kind of sustained and careful research that produces genuine clarity. His assessment of what is truly driving this return has been consistent. Everything about the timing, the speed, the manner in which William was notified on a Sunday, as though informing it was a procedural requirement rather than a genuine conversation between brothers.
I think Harry's great fear is that when his father sadly will one day die, that William as king will strip the Sussexes of their titles. That would have been inconceivable not so long ago, and everyone thought it was impossible to do it to Andrew, but they found a way, as the British always do, to sign a piece of paper and say that Prince Andrew is suddenly Mr. Andrew, and the same could well happen to the Sussexes. And I'm sure he fears that William, to get rid of the problem of the Sussexes in Montecito, just makes them into Mr. and Mrs. Windsor after all.
To one specific and overwhelming fear. What happens the day William becomes king? Lady C was explicit about the mechanism Harry is watching closely. Prince Andrew, the process by which a once senior and prominent royal following catastrophic personal scandal was quietly and definitively removed from public life. Titles functionally stripped. Platform removed. The Duke of York converted into a private figure with no remaining commercial value, in a royal identity that had been effectively taken away from him.
In theory, yes, but you've got to remember when Spare, Harry's book, came out, there's nothing that they did. They just remained silent and said no comment. That is, on the whole, their reaction when something immediately hits. And then you see sometimes something later to try and undermine. If they were clever, they'd ignore it. There's nothing they can do. It's going to be published.
Lady C said, Harry watches Andrew and understands completely that William as king has both the full justification and the mechanism to apply exactly the same process to the Sussexes. The memoir, the documentary, the Oprah interview, the years of sustained campaign against his own family and against Catherine specifically. Bauer confirmed this. William has not processed it and moved past it. He has noted every detail carefully and filed it away. Bauer identified what Harry is therefore attempting to accomplish by establishing a presence in Britain before the succession happens. Enroll the children in British schools. Create a visible and settled foothold on British soil. Make removing them when William takes the throne politically complicated and reputationally difficult for a new king who has already absorbed years of exactly that kind of difficulty.
I want them on their knees, grovelling. I'm sorry, great British public, for suggesting that you were racist for voting Brexit. I'm sorry, great British public, for suggesting that your British royal family was racist. I'm sorry for driving the late Queen Elizabeth II and the late Prince Philip to an early grave because of the stress and the pressure. I'm sorry for making the King's cancer diagnosis and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, cancer diagnosis so much worse than it could have been. I have a feeling we'll be waiting a while for that.
Lady C added the legal dimension Bauer left implicit. Children in British schools shifts the jurisdiction for any future custody proceedings entirely. A divorce becomes a fundamentally different negotiation when the children are UK residents. Harry's position strengthens considerably. Meghan's leverage over those children weakens from the day those school gates close behind them. Bauer delivered his final assessment with the quiet certainty that characterizes his most considered judgments. Lady C identified what accelerated the departure. Tom Bower and Lady C have spent years watching this couple from different positions through different sources using entirely different methods, and they have arrived at precisely the same conclusion. Something never added up about Harry and Meghan. The reasons kept changing. The explanations kept shifting. Every announcement carried something underneath the official version that the official version could never quite contain. This audience knew it. You notice in real time in your own living rooms watching unfold as it happened, and you were dismissed for noticing.
And I think that's one of the reasons why they're back. I think, and people don't like this. Maybe the king is iller than any of us know, but I think he's going to try and worm his way back in, which, as you said, but what's really interesting is the comment overnight from the king. The king has made it particularly clear, front page of the Times, literally everywhere this morning. King puts William and the monarchy first and says that has to be his priority.
Tom Bower put years of careful research behind what you already felt. Lady C put official sources behind what you already suspected. Harry and Meghan did not choose to come home. They chose to leave before the choice was made entirely for them. There is a difference between those two things that no amount of warmly worded press briefing about family reunion and children building relationships with cousins can close. They are back without an apology, without an explanation, without a single word of acknowledgement for everything that happened between the Freedom Flight and the night they quietly returned to Britain. Tom Bower said there is only one direction this story travels. Lady C said they ran out of road. Both of them are right. Watch the video on screen right.